Hey bakers, welcome back to My Bake Escape. In this week's video, I'm really excited to share one of my favorite recipes. This is probably one of the first ones I started making on my own when I was younger. It was always a fan favorite and it's perfect for fall, which is just around the corner. What I'm sharing with you today is a warm apple crisp. For the full recipe, visit mybakeescape.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest at mybakeescape. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. I would really appreciate the follow. Thank you for your support. All right, let's get started. So for this recipe, you will need 2 large apples. I had Honeycrisp apples on hand. Honeycrisp apples tend to be a lot sweeter. You can definitely use Granny Smith or Fuji, whatever it is that you like to use. You just may have to adjust the sweetness later, and I'll talk about that later in the recipe. So start by washing and drying your produce. I like to remove as much of the skin as possible. You don't have to peel it entirely perfectly. A little bit left on is fine. Then I chop it into these bite-sized pieces. And then place all of the apples in a bowl, kind of separating each piece. And then we're going to start flavoring the apples by adding cinnamon, vanilla extract, a little bit of salt, and some brown sugar. So I only added 1 tablespoon of brown sugar because, like I said, Honeycrisp apples tend to be sweeter. You can definitely add 2 to 3 tablespoons if you're using a tart apple. After the brown sugar, I also added some melted butter, and then I mix this all together. Next is to make my favorite part, which is the crisp topping. For the topping, you'll need all-purpose flour, old-fashioned oats, brown sugar, cinnamon, vanilla, salt, and melted butter. Start by combining the dry ingredients together, starting with the flour. To the flour, you're going to add the brown sugar. Give that a mix. Next, add the cinnamon, salt. Stir that together. Add the oats. Give that a quick mix, then add the vanilla extract, followed by the melted butter. Again, for the full recipe, please visit mybakeescape.com where I list the measurements for each ingredient that I'm using. Mix these together until the flour and oats are coated in that delicious butter. What I'm using for this recipe are ramekins. I like to serve this individually, and so I actually used 8 ramekins. This recipe will make 8 servings. You can use a pie dish or a 10 by 10 square dish if that's what you have on hand. I also like to lightly butter the dish that I use to bake these. There is a lot of sugar. There's sugar in the apples, and we added some sugar in the topping and in the oven. That it will caramelize, which makes it so delicious, but that can also stick. So to avoid that from happening, I do like to butter the dishes a little bit. Next step is to add the apples. So I tend to pack these in pretty high. The apples will cook down and reduce in the oven, so I like to pile them pretty high. Next is my favorite, adding that delicious crisp topping. This is so delicious, so I try my best to work it into all the holes and really pack it into each ramekin. As you see here, I place these ramekins on a parchment lined baking sheet, sometimes especially because I am packing these pretty high to the top. Some of the filling can bubble over, which will land in your oven and it won't be the best. It'll fill your house with a burn smell. So to avoid that, I always place these on a cookie sheet and I line it with parchment paper because it helps with cleanup later on. Before placing these in the oven, I also add a little bit of butter to the tops of each of the crisps. Alright, bake these for about 30 to 35 minutes in a 350-degree oven until they're golden brown and you can see that delicious filling bubbling. Once they're baked, go ahead and remove them from the oven and let them rest on a cooling rack for about 10 to 15 minutes. Once these have cooled down slightly, go ahead and add a nice large scoop of vanilla bean ice cream. Tillamook is one of my favorite brands. They are not sponsoring this video, but I'm just sharing with you my favorites. This dessert is absolutely delicious. There's something about the combination of that cinnamon and apples and the crunchiness that the oats give that topping with that warm, creamy vanilla ice cream melting in. Oh, it's just the best, let me tell you. You're gonna want to try this soon. If you do try this recipe, please let me know in the comments what you thought. And also, fall is around the corner and I love all things apples and pumpkins. So if you have any recipes that you would like me to try, leave a comment down below and I'll try my best to meet your request. Thank you so much for watching. Have a sweet day.